Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to add on what we learned from last lesson. So last lesson we had a number multiplying x is equal to something. This time we're going to have the exact same thing we did last time, but we're also adding or subtracting another term. Okay, that's what that translates into. Okay, so in general, to solve equations, we always apply the opposite operation. And another way of saying opposite is inverse mathematically, right? So we talked about it yesterday. The opposite or the inverse of multiplication is to divide, and the opposite of division therefore is multiplication, multiply, and the opposite of adding is subtracting, and opposite of subtraction is addition, it's to add, right? And we do this because when we multiply and dividing by the same number, we end up canceling them out. They're equal to 1. And when we're adding and subtracting the same number, they cancel each other out by making them equal 0. It's all about ones and zeros. I mentioned that last day. Okay? So if we want to isolate a variable in a two-step equation, and that's what we're doing, all these steps require at least 2 steps, we need to add or subtract first. That's the first step we're going to do. Then we'll multiply or divide. Add or subtract first, then multiply or divide. So this is a standard two-step question, right? So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of the number that requires adding and subtracting. So which would be this one. There you go, hey, this is 1.5 or negative 1.5. There you go, what is it doing to the variable? Our variable is w. Is it adding, subtracting? What is it doing? Levi?
Subtracting.
Yeah, so what's the opposite of subtracting?
Addition.
Adding. So we add 1.5, right? Because negative 1.5 plus 1.5, that cancels out because that's equal to 0. And we're left with 0.4 w. But whatever we do to one side, it's just like the puzzle we just did, everything needs to be balanced. We have to do to the other side. We have to add 1.5 to this side. So you go 0.3 plus 1.5 is 1.8. Okay. Now this becomes a question from last day's homework, right? We go, okay, you need to get rid of the number in front of the w. You go, is it multiplying or dividing, or adding or subtracting to the w? What is it doing to the w? Right? David, what is it doing?
The 0.4 is multiplying the w, so you divide
Yeah.
0.8.
So we divide because they cancel out, and we got to move it to the other side, 0.4, and w is equal to 1.8 divided by 0.4. So pull out our calculators, 1.8 divided by 0.4, and w is equal to 4.5. All right? Now, these types of questions can get a little bit trickier, is we can have them written as rationals, as fractions, right? And just like we did in the last chapter, to make our math a little bit easier, what we do is we convert them to integers first. We get rid of the fractions, right? So the way we did it last day is we multiply the entire expression by the common denominator, or the common multiple. So we look at here, we go, I should write that down, common denominator, right? So in our question, we look at the denominator. Denominators, we have 5, 2, and 10. So what's the smallest number that all these can multiply into? Yes, Jessica? 10, yeah. So our common multiple is 10. So what we're going to do is multiply every single term by 10. So you multiply this one by 10, multiply this one by 10, and this one by 10. I'm going to rewrite this just because there's not much space there. Okay. Then you go, look at the denominator, look at the number we just multiplied, and simplify those. Okay. 10, 5 can go into 10 two times, so we can rewrite this as 2w. Right? There you go. 2 can go into 10 5 times. So we have 3 times 5 on the top, which is 15. And there was a negative sign, so it was negative 15. Then we had a 10 and a 10. They cancel each other out. We're just left with the 1. It's not 0, with the 1. So now this becomes similar to the question we just did. Okay? So now we go, hey, it's a simple two-step equation. We got rid of the fractions. The first thing we do is add or subtract. We look at this number here. Go, I'm going to rewrite this over here. We have minus 15. Opposite of minus 15, plus 15. Right? So we add 15 to both sides. Okay? And we're left with 2w, and the 15s cancel each other out, and 1 plus 15 is 16. Okay? Then, back to first day stuff. The number in front of the w is multiplying. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So you divide by 2, so they cancel out. Divide by 2s. So we're left with w is equal to 16 divided by 2, which is 8. Right? So you see how these are getting a little bit more complex each step along, right? So you gotta not just remember what steps to do first, but like, oh, what do I do with fractions? What do I do, right? Pretty soon it'll be with more than one variable. What do we do if there's brackets? So that's just basically, we're just building on the foundational steps. Now, last day we looked at how to solve these on a number line, a diagram. So you can be shown these kind of questions and you expected to know how to do it on a number line. But like I said, the number line is limited, all right? So especially when you deal with fractions. So if I wanted to do this with a number line, and it's helpful when you set up your number line to do it in divisions of your smallest fraction. So smallest fraction is 1 over 10. All right, you go. We set up our number line first is what is our expression equal to? Our expression is equal to 3/5. And you go, well, our number line is done in tenths. So this equivalent expression, if I were to do it in tenths, I have to multiply top and bottom by 2, would be same thing as 6 over 10, right? 3 over 5 is same as 6 over 10, right? So this whole expression is the same as 6 over 10. That's what 3/5 is. And then we go, well, what is the expression? Well, we have 2x plus 1 over 10. And our goal is to divide up this area, take off one chunk at a time until we know what the value of x is. We go, okay, next. We have a number here. Well, we know some of this space is just 1/10. So we take off 1/10. That means the remainder of this space must be the 2x. All right? Then we go, okay, we need to break this up into 2 equal spaces because it's 2x. Here we go. Okay, how many lines are there here? We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lines. So the halfway point is at the 6th line mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, and or did I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Why am I not doing this right in my head? I think it's right there. 6, 7, 8, 9. What did I do wrong here? Oh, sorry. It went up to here. There was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines. Knew it wasn't making sense. So half of 10 line is 5 lines. So half of this space here is x. The other half of this space here is x. Right? So x is equal to this amount. Right? So off the number line, that's like 2.5. It's halfway between 2 and 3 out of 10. And we can't have 2.5 out of 10. You can just do that on your calculator. It's 0.25 or it's a quarter. 0.25 is the same thing as a quarter, right? Not very easily done. It's nicer with whole numbers, right? So I think the number line it's got its limitations, but you can, if you want, stretch it to all kinds of questions. Okay, so the remainder of the class today, we're gonna just look at these two-step equations, and some of them do require 2 steps because we need to get rid of the fractions first. So it's actually 3 steps if you see a fraction. Right? So I will do A, B, and E, and I'll get you to do C, D, and F. Okay? So first step is if you see a fraction, is we get rid of the fraction by figuring out what the common denominator is. So we have 4 and 2 for question A. So what would be the common denominator for 4 and 2? 4, right? Yeah, so we multiply everything by 4. So multiply the first term by 4, the second term by 4, the third term by 4. Okay? Right? Then we do our simplifying. Well, there's no fraction for the first term, so just 4 times 2x just becomes 8x. The second one, we have a 4 on the top and a 4 on the bottom that cancel each other out, and we're just left with the 1. Not a 0, but a 1. Next term, we have a 4 on the top and a 2 on the bottom, so 2 goes into 4 2 times. Okay. So 8x plus 1 is equal to 2. Right. First thing we do is add or subtract once we get it to this stage. Everything's integers. All right? So we have plus 1. What's opposite of plus 1? Levi? Negative 1, yeah. Subtract 1. Because plus 1 and minus 1 cancel each other out. So we're left with 8x. The 1's cancel out. 2 minus 1 is 1. Right? Then 8 times x is equal to 1. 8 times x, opposite of multiplying, is dividing. So some of you guys have probably got this really figured out. So you got to divide by 8. The 8's cancel out. We're left with x is equal to 1 over 8. And that's it. Okay? Next question. You see a fraction? Do you see a fraction? That's the first thing you should check for. Do you see a fraction? B? Do you see a denominator anywhere? Yeah. So you go, okay, I need to get rid of the denominator. But before we can do that, we have a proper number here, right? And that makes the math a little bit harder. So we're going to convert this number. All right, here we go. 2 times 8, we take our trip around the fraction and you add the 3. So to convert this, the denominator stays the same. 2 times 8 is 16, plus the 3 is 19. Right? And then we rewrite the rest of this down. Okay. You go. What's our common denominator? We're looking at 2, 4, and 8. What's the smallest number that all these multiply into? Yes, Jessica. Sorry? Yes, they can all multiply into 16. Yes, Theo.
8.
And they can go to 8, but Jessica said 16, so we'll work with 16, right? It's nice to work with the lowest number, but sometimes you just don't see it. So let's multiply everything by 16. All right? So multiply this by 16, multiply this one by 16, multiply this one by 16. Okay? Then we compare the number we're multiplying to our denominator. We go, and it should be a nice whole number. 2 can go into 16 8 times. So we're left with 8x. Right? 4 can go into 16 4 times. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And you have negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12. There you go. 8 can go into 16 2 times. So 19 times 2, 38. Okay. So now once we have it as all integers, the first thing we're going to do is add or subtract. So what are we adding or subtracting? Joey, do you know this one? What are we adding? Oh, Theo's got us.
Plus 12.
Plus 12. Because minus 12 plus 12. The 12s, oh, that's a little messy. Plus 12. The 12s cancel out. Plus 12. Whatever you do one side, you have to do the other. So we're left with, I'm going to move it up here, 8x is equal to 38 plus 12, which is 50. Okay. And we need to get rid of the 8. Right now it's multiplying, so we have to divide by 8 because that would cancel the 8's out. Then you have x is equal to 50 over 8. There you go. Both of these numbers are even numbers, so we should be able to simplify. Yes?
You can reduce it to 25 over 4.
Yeah, 2 can fit into both of these, so it'll be 25 over 4. Okay? Yeah. Now, E is very similar to all these ones, right? Except for having whole numbers, we have decimals, right? So if you see a denominator at the bottom, our first step is to get rid of that denominator. So there's only one denominator, so our common denominator is going to be 0.6 or negative 0.6. So we're going to multiply everything by negative 0.6. I'm going to start that on a new line just to make it a little bit nicer to see. So 0.6, everything gets multiplied by that, plus 0.23 times I'm sorry, it should be negative 0.6 because that's the number on the bottom, negative 0.6 and negative 0.6, and it equals the number that they gave us times negative 0.6. Okay, so we have 0.6 on the top and a 0.6 on the bottom. They cancel each other out, so we're just left with the x. Then we have a decimal, so we're going to have to go 0.23 times negative 0.6 is negative 0.138. So you have negative 0.38, and it equals 1.93 times negative 0.6. Negative 1.158. Okay. Is that okay? Right. The hardest part is getting rid of that denominator. So you find the denominator and just multiply it through. It might be an ugly number, but that's what you get. Okay. So next, you need to get rid of this negative 0.138. So Lyndon, are we adding or subtracting here?
Adding.
Yeah, we need to do the opposite. So we add 0.138. And whatever we do one side, we have to do to the other. So we're left with just the x. And then we just pull out our calculator. We go, okay, we had negative 1.158 plus 0.138. What does that equal? Negative 1.02. Okay. Right. So give the other three questions a try. Right. Our first step is to get rid of the denominator. Right. So you find the common denominator and you multiply everything by that.